Welcome to Unit 2, Lesson 1, Planning a Pizza Party. This will be the first lesson in our linear equations, inequalities, and systems unit. The first half of this unit will deal with linear equations and systems of linear equations. Our learning goal today is to be able to write expressions to estimate the cost of a pizza party. We have 3 learning targets today. So as we work through practice problems, please keep these learning targets in the back of your mind so that you can recognize them, because at the end of the lesson, you should feel comfortable making these 3 statements. First, I can explain the meaning of the term constraints. Number 2, I can tell which quantities in a situation can vary and which ones cannot. And number 3, I can use letters and numbers to write expressions representing the quantities in a situation. If, at the end of this lesson, you are comfortable making those 3 statements, then you are right where you need to be. If, however, by the end of this lesson, you are not comfortable making any of these 3 statements, please use class time to ask for further clarification so that you can be prepared as we move forward. For vocabulary, we have constraint. Remember, constraint was one of your learning targets. This is a limitation on the possible values of variables in a model, often expressed by an equation or inequality, or by specifying that the value must be an integer. For example, distance above ground, d, in meters might be constrained to be non-negative, expressed by d is greater than or equal to 0. Meaning, our heights either need to be 0, which means the object is on the ground, or it needs to be positive, which means it is above the ground, but it cannot be negative because that would mean it is below ground. Our next vocabulary term is model. This is a mathematical or statistical representation of a problem from science, technology, engineering, work, or everyday life used to solve problems and make decisions. Now we can begin with our practice problems. In this first practice problem, it says, the videography team entered a contest and won a monetary prize of $1,350. Which expression represents how much each person would get if there were X people on the team? So, first we want to point out what information is given to us. We know that the prize was 1,350 people, and we know that there is X number of people. So we do not know how many people are on the team. Now let's look and see what each of these says. A says we take the money and we divide it by X people. That is how we would figure this out. We would take the prize money, divide it by the number of people, and that would tell us how much money each person would get. So A is the correct answer. But let's take a look at the others just to make sure you understand what they say. B has 1,350, which is the money. And B adds X people. So this one wouldn't make sense because they're taking the prize money and they're adding the number of people. C has the money on top like it should be. So that part is correct. But now we have 5 on the bottom, which means there are 5 people. But if you remember, we don't know how many people. That's why we used X. So C is incorrect because it is telling us how many people there are, and we don't know how many people there are. And finally, D is taking the money and subtracting some unknown number of people. But that would not tell you how much money each person gets. That is taking the prize money and subtracting the number of people. So in this practice problem, the correct answer would be A. We need to take the prize money and divide it by the unknown number of people. If you have any questions about this practice problem, please use class time to ask for clarification so that you can be prepared moving forward. Our next practice problem states, to support a local senior citizens center, a student club sent a flyer home to the unknown number N students in the school. The flyer said, please bring in money to support Senior Citizen Center. Paper money and coins accepted. Their goal is to raise some unknown amount T dollars. Match each quantity to an expression that describes it. So they've given us descriptions A, B, C, D, and E. And then they've given us expressions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to match one description with one expression. So A says the dollar amount the club would have if they reached half their goal. So choice 1 says their goal plus 50. That would not be half their goal, so it's not A. 2 says they would take 0.5, which is equal to 1/2, and they're going to multiply it by T, which is their goal. So A matches 2. Description B. The dollar amount the club would have if every student at the school donated 50 cents to the cause. 1 says they're going to take their total and add 50. That is incorrect. 3 says they are going to take 0.25, which is a quarter, and they're going to multiply it by the number of students. So that is incorrect. Number 4 says they're going to take 0.5, which is equal to 50 cents, and they're going to multiply by the number of students. That is the correct expression for B. So B matches number 4. Description C. The dollar amount the club could donate if they made $50 more than their goal. Expression 1 says we take their goal and we add $50. That is the correct expression for this description. So C matches number 1. Description D. The dollar amount the club would still need to raise to reach its goal after every student at the school donated 50 cents. Expression 3 says to take 0.25, which is a quarter, and multiply it by the number of students. That is not the correct expression for this description. Expression 5 says we're going to take the total goal. We're going to subtract 50 cents times the number of students. That is the correct expression for this description. So description D matches expression 5. And finally, description E. The dollar amount the club would have if half of the students at the school each gave 50 cents. So when we look at the only remaining description, it says we're going to take a quarter and we're going to multiply it by the number of students. That may not look correct at first glance, but if you think about it, we would take 0.5 to represent half the students, and we would multiply that times the number of students. Then we would take that and we would multiply it by 0.5 again to represent the 50 cents. And half of half is 1/4. So we would end up with 0.25 times the number of students. Or, in other words, half of the students bringing 50 cents is the same as all of the students bringing a quarter. So E does match expression 3. If you have any questions about this practice problem, please use class time to ask for further clarification so that you are prepared moving forward. Our next practice problem, Each of the 10 students in the baking club make 2 chocolate cakes for a fundraiser. They all used the same recipe using C cups of flour in total. Write an expression that represents the amount of flour required for 1 cake. So first, let's identify the information that is given to us. We know there are 10 students. We know that each student makes 2 chocolate cakes. And we know that there are C cups of flour in total. So what we need to do is take our 10 students and multiply that by 2 cakes each. And then we're going to need to divide the total flour by each of those cakes that was made. So now we know that we have the total amount of flour, and that is going to be divided by 20 cakes. So this is flour on top, and this is cakes on bottom. So now when you tell me how much flour there is total, I would be able to divide that by 20 cakes and give you the flour per cake. If you have any questions about how to solve a practice problem such as this, please use class time to ask for further clarification so that you are prepared moving forward. Our next practice problem. A student club started a fundraising effort to support animal rescue organizations. The club sent an information flyer home to the unknown number of students N in the school. It says, "We welcome donations of any amount, including any change you could spare. Their goal is to raise some unknown value T dollars and donate to a cat shelter and a dog shelter. Match each quantity to an expression, an equation, or an inequality that describes it." Description A. The dollar amount the club would have if they reached 1/4 of their goal. So as we look at this, we know that their goal is T. They're going to reach 1/4 of that goal. So description A would match expression 2, 1/4 times T. Description B. The dollar amount the club would have if every student at the school donated a quarter to the cause. So as we look through the expressions, we know that the students are represented by N, and we know that a quarter is 1/4. So description B matches expression 5, 1/4 times N. Description C. the dollar amount the club could donate to the cat shelter if they reached their goal and gave a quarter of the total donation to a dog shelter. So if we look, we know that if they donate 1/4 to the dog shelter, that means they still have 3/4 to donate to the cat shelter. So description C would match expression 4, 3/4 T. Description D. The dollar amount the club would still need to raise to reach its goal after every student at the school donated a quarter. We know that the total is represented by T, and we know that students are represented by N. So description D matches expression 3, total minus 1/4 or 1/4 times the number of students. And finally, description E, the dollar amount the club would have if 3/4 of the students at the school gave 50 cents. This matches expression 1, which takes 3/4, multiplies it by the number of students, and then multiplies that by 1/2, which is the equivalent of 50 cents. So E matches expression 1. If you have any questions about how to solve a practice problem such as this one, please use class time to ask for further clarifications so that you can be prepared moving forward. Our last practice problem for lesson 1. A softball team is ordering pizza to eat after their tournament. They plan to order cheese pizzas that cost $6 each and 4 topping pizzas that cost $10 each. They order some unknown number C cheese pizzas and some unknown number F 4 topping pizzas. Which expression represents the total cost of all the pizzas they order? So as we look at this, expression A says $6 plus $10. That does not account for anything other than 1 cheese pizza and 1 4-topping pizza, but we don't know how many of each, so A is incorrect. B, let me just go ahead and write that. B has C plus F. This is number of cheese plus number of 4 topping. So this would tell us the correct total number of pizzas, but not their cost. C is $6 per cheese pizza, which is correct, and $10 per 4 topping, which is also correct. So C would actually give us the total cost. We'll take a look at choice D. This tells us $6 per 4 topping, which is incorrect, plus $10 per cheese, which is also incorrect. So if you have any questions about how to solve any of the practice problems from Unit 1 or Unit 2, Lesson 1, please use class time to ask for further clarification so that you are prepared moving forward.